No, I mean the difference is, I mean, there's girls are definitely unforgiving and they can be. But what's funny on our team, maybe it's because of the hockey mentality that I bring as assistant coach. There's the the slogan of "Did you get her number?" flies around on our team, which I taught them like when they were U8s. So it's like, so did you get the number? I was like, yeah, I got the number. Like, I hear that. I'm like always so proud of them when I hear that on the sideline.
Well, you're taking pages from the Freddie Shero playbook there, Ak. I mean, it doesn't exactly translate to girls soccer.
No, it makes me happy.
But my daughter played, was a 4-year varsity soccer player in high school and was a decent player, not a great player, but a quality player. And when you talk about her career, the one thing that stands out in her mind were not the goals or the district championship, but the time she took Amber Gracie. Amber Gracie was this big, monstrous forward on Saline High School, and Aaron took her down. And about once a year, that story will come up of how she just waylaid, Gracie. And for her, that was the highlight of her career.
Oh, I know. We have one girl on our team who's amazing defensively, and I think her father watches this podcast too. She's awesome, and but she's very physical and is emotional. Like she plays on emotion. She's a sweeper. She plays on so much emotion, and she will just lay out girls. It doesn't matter if it's inside the box or out. It was so many times it's like we've been like, don't kill her, don't kill her. Like she's running along next to her, and she'll just trash her sometimes, and then we end up with penalty kicks against us. But yeah, she should be a hockey player. Some of these kids, you just look at them, and you're like, this girl should absolutely be a hockey player.
One of my favorite stories with my son when he played soccer, and as you know, he played college, and but when he was in high school, he was a sophomore, and we were playing a team in our area that was much better than us, and he was playing the left fullback, and the guy was driving on him, and he just rode him. I mean, just rode him like a hockey player, rode him out of bounds, and got a yellow card. And after the game, I was kind of speaking to him about it, and I was walking up to him, and before I could say a word, he said, "It was my only option, Dad." But how do you even argue with that?
No, there's nothing you can say. That's awesome.
He said if I didn't ride him out, he was going to beat me, and I wasn't going to let that happen. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's talk hockey.
Okay, let's talk hockey. Good movie, by the way, Kevin. We just watched last night because you've always turned me on to some great movies. You guys will like this too. But it's called Begin Again.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah.
I know it's about.
Yeah, it's with Keira Knightley, who was from Bend It Beckham. Remember her?
Oh yeah.
You don't have to say any more. As soon as you say Keira Knightley, I'm there.
Yeah, she is all that in a bucket of chips. She's definitely something special. But what's amazing about this movie, she sings in this movie. She plays a singer-songwriter, Mike. So, Mike, what else can you ask for, Mike? I mean, Keira Knightley playing a singer-songwriter. We're right up Mike's wheelhouse now. We're like completely, you're there.
Is this the one with oh God, what's his name?
Yeah, Mark.
Yes, Mark Ruffalo. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw the preview of that movie. It looked pretty good. There's actually a lot of movies out right now that I haven't had a chance to see. That
you can rent
on the long weekend, I think I'm going to check out 3 or 4 movies.
It's on iTunes. See that seagulls just fly right by?
I know this isn't your kind of movie, but it is sort of hockey related. Has anyone noted that the movie, the tank movie, World War II, Fury? I saw that movie, and one of the things into it, was a little bit of a theme. Like they're in these hellacious battles, and when it's all over, they all draw a deep breath, and somebody will say, "This is the best job I ever had," and everybody will repeat that. And the San Jose Sharks, I saw Brent Burns has picked that up, and he said that was the team motto. So I got to believe for a little.
That's pretty cool.
See the movie. Now the Sharks, when things get a little hairy, it's the best job I ever had. So
I got to check that one out for sure. That's very.
And I got to tell you, anybody watches that tank movie Fury, that is by far not the best job those tank riders ever had. Not that I'm ever going to be in a war, but if I was in a war, a tank would be the last place I'd want to be. So
the Sharks need some kind of motto after last year. But let's start.
Yeah. Just a beginning again. It's in that once Garden State world. It's like kind of reminds you of once, kind of reminds you of Garden State. And it's a great soundtrack. And I just can't believe how incredible Keira Knightley is as a singer. Like she actually sings on it.
Are we sure?
Her.
It is. Okay.
It's her, and you can get the soundtrack. It's her. I mean, she has like she's somewhere between Edie Brickell and who was the Ricky, Ricky in town.
Ricky Lee Jones.
Yeah, Ricky Lee Jones. Yeah, somewhere in that world, a little bit of like
Sean Colvin-ish.
Innocence Mission, which is my favorite band to check out. You guys have never seen, but yeah, it starts off really lame. Like this is the second time my wife and I tried to watch it. We watched it a couple weeks ago. We watched like the first 10 minutes. We're like, this is really, it was really predictable and brutal. But it ends up after about 30 minutes in, it's very cool. It's worth you gotta stick with it. It gets really good.
Yeah, I just watched the movie Chef with Jon Favreau, Robert Downey Jr. and a bunch of great movie, but it made me want to go out and eat like crazy. The food was so damn good looking. I'm like, oh god, I gotta go to one of the restaurants in Buffalo and get something because this looks so damn good. But anyway,
that was Big Greek Wedding. That was for me. That was like that. Oh, the one thing I had to say too. My wife and I, this is a great thing. If you're ever looking for a thing to do as a couple, or somewhere down the line, there's a place near. No, like I didn't mean that in any bad way, Mike. I just meant if you ever were to find a woman who would.
Yes.
You're getting yourself deeper in a hole, Just.
Yeah, no. But here's the idea. Before we start the show, so there's a place around the corner from us where my daughter's actually having her bat mitzvah, right? So we went to check it out. So we stayed over there, and it's like a wedding factory place. One of these, like they do 3 weddings a day, and they got the whole thing together. So we stayed over there. It's just to check out the rooms and hotels and like that. And so at night, at 11 o'clock at night, we go to the bar. We went to a concert, and then we went to this bar back at the hotel. And literally, it was the funniest scene. There were like 3 brides. There was groups of groomsmen. There were everybody kind of filters into this bar at the end. So you have groomsmen from this party trying to pick up bridesmaids from that party, and it was absolutely hilarious. And no one knew who we were, of course, because we weren't at any of these weddings. But since there were 3 weddings there, they assumed we were at one of the weddings. They were just like welcoming us in. So we kept saying we were looking for Mike. This is what I want to tell you. We were looking for Michael Jello. They're like, what? Then someone said, "What? Who you were? Have you seen Michael Jello?" Like, no, maybe he's over there. Mike, hey, oh, there he is. Got him. That kind of thing. It was so fun. We were making up all these scenarios. It was hilarious, just picking up these
Great. Somebody heard the name and then probably used it as cover for a little bit of swapping at that.
It's a great cover because it sounds like it's a normal first name, so it's a Mike, and then Ojello is it's got to be somebody real. It's not like we're looking for Mike Smith.
I'm gonna get something for a paternity suit from in the next.
That's so ironic because usually Mike is the name dropper.
Right. Exactly. I mean, but this is
2 things. One, are you in the exact same room you were in last time you did it from there? Because kind of the view looks the same.
Yes, it's the same place.
Yeah, and number 2, yesterday I went on record as saying that I have never seen anyone miss the date farther away than you did. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but you missed the date by 2 years and 9 months. You said November 2014. And I said I don't think I've ever seen it miss the date by 2 years and 9 months. So
wow.
That's a record to be proud of. I mean well,
the great thing is though, I missed the date. I missed the day the first time. I missed the year the second time, and I missed the third time. So that's an Eklund hat trick. We'll call that an Eklund hat trick right now. Missing the date, the year, and the month.
The day, the month, the year.
That's an Eklund hat trick right there. All right.
You know what? But I will say this.
Yes.
It wasn't as much fun without you yesterday.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, I love doing the show. I'm really happy to be able to do this on my vacation today, in the rain. Because it is raining outside, as you can tell, but it's still beautiful. Be swimming with dolphins in 2 days. So we'll be doing a show this week on Thursday or Friday for those of you watching this. So we're going to take off for the American Thanksgiving and be thankful to our friends and family the way we weren't thankful during the Canadian Thanksgiving. We were remorseful during it.
Well, having experienced them both, Thanksgiving is inferior to American Thanksgiving. Everyone knows that.
Well, only Canadians double dip. Americans would not double dip, but a Canadian will double dip. I have my Canadian friends who will go home and to be with family on Canadian Thanksgiving. Well, that's right here as well. So double dip.
That's for sure. And I mean, I love Thanksgiving, pumpkin chunkin'. There's all great traditions around here. So America has the whole thing going on. Pumpkin Chunkin. Well, they canceled Pumpkin Chunkin this year. There's no Pumpkin Chunkin on Thanksgiving. They did. There's some. Do you know what Pumpkin Chunkin is, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, yeah, this is just gonna be this kind of show today, I think. This is the Discovery Channel does this in Delaware, the home of my birth, Dover, Delaware. There's a literal Air Force Base. This is a farm in Dover, Delaware. They decided that years ago they built machines, and for the last 15 years they've been building machines to see how far they can throw a pumpkin. All right, and so it's called Pumpkin Chunkin, and it's built to the point where they have like 20,000 people now joining these fields, and there's these giant, and there's 3 categories. There's the trebuchet, there's the catapult, there's the air cannons, and they go and literally, look for the mirror, see if they can launch this thing a mile, and no one's reached a mile of Pumpkin Chunkin, like to actually go over 5,000 feet. No one's done the mile. People have gotten close, like someone got to 4,900 last year. So it's a Thanksgiving tradition on the Discovery Channel, and it uses the guy Carrie Byron and Granny Imahara and Tori Bellucci, the guys from MythBusters, the 3 people from MythBusters who are no longer on MythBusters, we talked about before. But so this year they went to Delaware, and because someone last year got hurt at Pumpkin Chunkin, there was a lawsuit, and the farmer who had it on his farm decided a week before, I'm not doing it. And this is like a family tradition of ours for years to watch Pumpkin Chunkin on Thanksgiving night. So but they did actually go. There is still a special on. They actually, what I heard is they went and they took some of the all-stars from Pumpkin Chunkin, they got them together. They fought their own field, and there's no crowd there, but they're still going to be throwing pumpkins as far as they can. It's a friggin' awesome thing. So anyway,
and we all know who the Chunkin is. It would have to be former Delaware Senator and current Vice President Joe Biden.
Right, exactly. Not to get political. Okay, we'll start now. Here we go. All right, so
Tuesday, November 25th. Write this down. 2014.
You have a lot to live up to because Mike hit it first shot yesterday.
I know. My wife always says I don't live in this time-space continuum, so that's why I have a tough time with this.
Myself, Ryan, and Kevin.
All right, yeah, in that order. All right, Tuesday, 25th. It's 1 month till Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. All right. Smiles. Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, November 25th, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Ryan Garner.
I'm Kevin Allen of USA Today Sports.
And I'm Eklund in Longboat Key, Florida, talking to you live from my vacation, but I don't want to take a vacation. I want to do a podcast with you guys, and I love doing these podcasts so much that there was never a doubt, Mike, that I was doing this podcast today, and probably tomorrow. And then we won't be doing a podcast on Thursday or Friday, but we've got stuff to talk about, and I want to start today with Evgeni Malkin. So this is what I want to. This to me was hilarious. Okay, so. Of course, you guys know that Fleury got his 300th win, Marc-Andre Fleury, 300th win, and good for him. That was it's exciting. We've all talked a ton about Marc-Andre Fleury and the enigma that is Marc-Andre Fleury, but he gets his 300th win. So they go to Malkin, and this is tweeted out by the Penguins themselves. They asked Malkin, what does he think of this 300th win? And his response is, now remember, Malkin, this could be lost in translation, but we don't know. Malkin's response is, My whole memories. I am score every practice, 10 goals, every shootout I score in him. I don't know how he win 300. It surprises me.
There's a statement of confidence in your goaltender. Wow.
Yeah, and this is the look on his face as he's telling this. Let me see if I can get this right. There he is. Huh? What?
Sincerity and bemusement, yes.
No, these guys, these athletes, they can't win because when they don't say anything, we get on them then for just giving us that athlete speak, and then when they try to be clever, they'll be criticized, for doing that. I'm gonna guess he's being clever on that. So.
Yeah, I would know. He's a tough one to figure out. I mean, he is probably the scariest individual I've ever spoken to. Like you feel like he's going to kill you when you talk to him. I'm not intimidated by hockey players, but I'm intimidated by monsters. Malkin is a bit of a monster to me. Like when he first came into the league too, he was like even he even didn't just not speak English, but he looked at you like he understood everything you were saying. And I actually heard that he did understand a lot of what you were saying. And like a lot of Russians could speak English before he actually started speaking it to the press because, hey, why not? You know, like hold out as long as you can, pretending you can't speak the language. But yeah, you've talked to him, Kevin. He's a bizarre personality. I think he's a good one.
Oh yeah, he's. I find a lot of the Russian players have great senses of humor, and I think he's like that. I think he understood it, as you said, but I think he had trouble speaking it. He wasn't comfortable doing interviews for a very long time, and I've spent some time with him one-on-one, and he was making an effort, and it was just a little bit uncomfortable for him, and I always feel. I was never intimidated by him, but I always felt bad because you could see, he wanted to give you a good interview, but it was a struggle to do that. So, like that's why I really appreciate the obvious attempt at humor because, I remember where he started. But, I mean, like he's a bit of a cult hero in Pittsburgh because of his mom and dad. His mom and dad come, once a year and they stay with him. Cooks him his favorite soup, and he usually goes on a tear when he's eating his favorite soup. And they show pictures of his parents in the stands, and everybody applauds and stands up, and it's become part of the shtick in Pittsburgh and kind of a fun deal. But I don't find him as much intimidating as just the fact that he has like a lot of Russian players struggled to learn the English. I mean, that's the one thing. Having been over there. They don't have a great transition game in Russia when it comes to speaking other languages other than Russia. Wherever you're at in Europe, you can always find somebody who speaks English, and that speaks to our issues in this country that we just expect somebody to speak English. But it's true. Wherever you are in Europe, and you've been there, you know what it's like. But in Russia, that's not a given. I was, in the last Olympics, I was reminded of that. I was in Moscow for couple of days, and I always had trouble finding somebody who spoke English. So
to me, it's about the internet and television and the fact that other people in other parts of the world want to watch our movies, and sometimes they end up learning English that way. And then if Russians did better movies, we would all know Russian. That's their fault.
Well, I don't trust any Russian who takes on an Italian nickname. Gino.
Yeah. Do you remember the classic moment in the conference finals, Kevin, where Malkin's parents went at Ovechkin in the hallway?
Oh yeah.
That was amazing. I mean, that was one of these things that I forget what they said. Do you remember the story? I'm trying to remember.
No, I don't remember. I remember the incident, but I don't remember specifically.
It was something to do with a hit that
early in their careers, there was all this discussion about that Malkin and Ovechkin didn't get along, and then at the All-Star game there was an attempt. I can't remember what he did. Malkin and Ovechkin collaborated on sort of a comedy routine, if you remember.
Right.
Wasn't that the cowboy hats thing? Then they wear their hats or something.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but prior to that time, there was a lot of talk about how they didn't see eye to eye. So maybe that played.
It was the STV version of Russians. This is one thing I've noticed about Russian parents. With their hockey players' kids as opposed to American and Canadian parents. I think Russian players look more like children when they're next to their parents in the way they act. There's a definite thing that Russian parents are like, you are my son, no matter how rich or famous or old you are. Where Canadians and American kids, hockey players who are still kids are like, I'm a big boy now, crazy. But I'm a big guy. But Russian players still kind of fall into that old. I've seen, Malkin. I've seen Ovechkin with his mom. I've seen this situation where they suddenly look like, wait a second, these are just kids. It's interesting to me. I don't know if you really realize.
It's more consistent with the family structure in Europe and than in the U.S. than in North America. I mean, I think that players in North America, they have respect for their parents, but I think it's still, I think they're behind the times in the sense and of that respect to their parents.
So Ryan, let's talk about Malkin for a second about this. Just because she's an interesting topic to me, and there's not a whole lot of news today, but we've got a couple things. But Malkin is a how good, Ryan, do you think Malkin would be if he had never been on the Penguins? Like, just let's throw Malkin onto another team, any other team, where he's not, where he's the number one center on that team.
I've thought about this a few times, because you think about just the balance of power, because I'm the biggest proponent of the draft lottery was totally rigged when the Penguins got Crosby. And I've thought about what Malkin would look like without Crosby there and what he'd look like on different teams. And I think he'd kind of be a Kopitar type of player where he's good, everyone recognizes that he's good, but I don't think he'd be as good. He does, because he doesn't get the same type of checking attention that Crosby gets. He obviously benefits from playing on a top power play unit with Crosby. Don't get me wrong, the guy's fantastic. I mean, he's won a boatload of awards, and he put the team on his back to win a cup when Crosby was injured, Game 7 against the Wings. But I think he gets a big boost from being in Pittsburgh that he wouldn't get anywhere else.
That's really
what I'm surprised at, and we've talked about it for a number of years, is the fact that there has never been any serious movement on his part to sort of carve out his own niche and say, I want to be the man, I want to be something, and go someplace else, get out from underneath the shadow of Crosby. I mean, I think maybe there's, but there is that thing that they've only won one cup there, and maybe he could win one someplace being the man on his own. And there's never been any kind of hint that was part of that dynamic there, and it just
is really
seems comfortable.
surprising. Yeah, I agree. And going back to Dave King's book, which is one of the best hockey books not written by Kevin Allen, King of Russia, it's called, where Dave King talks about his coaching career in Russia, and this is an amazing book. And I always go back to this, where he said that one of the big things in Russia is that centers and players in general often look like pitchers, you always have your ace, and your first line center is your ace, and they want to be the first line center is a big deal in Russia. It's like you want to be that guy, that's your ace, and that player always feels like they're supposed to carry the team, they're supposed to drive the team, and he questioned in the book, I think, or maybe I forget, I read the book a long time ago, maybe I just drew this from what he was saying in comparison to Malkin, basically saying, okay, Malkin, has grown up in that scenario where he's supposed to be the ace, and he can never be the ace in this situation he's in. And I always wonder how that affects him. What are your thoughts, Kev?
Well, I think there's a couple issues here. I've noted with Russian players that a couple of things. Money, I don't want to say it means more than it does to North Americans, but the money issue, it's hard for them to let go of that. A North American player I've noted will, say, well, I'll take a little bit less. The Russian players don't usually take less. I think it's interesting to note, of course, is that Malkin makes more money than Crosby. When it came time for his contract, he didn't say, well, Sid's at 8.7. I'll just stop right there, so there's no hard feelings. He got above that, and I'm just so that for whatever reason, even though it's pretty clear that's Crosby's team and everything else, but he's the highest paid player. So there is a measure of respect that's paid to him that goes beyond his stature as the number 2 center. But the other element is he is on the top power play unit. They're equals on the power play. And to me it's similar to, if you remember, that's why Sergei Fedorov left the Red Wings. He wanted the opportunity to be out of Yzerman's shadow. That was Yzerman's team, and there was always the suggestion there was a little bit of tension between Yzerman and Fedorov as well. I don't sense that in Pittsburgh. I think Malkin and Crosby get along quite well. And the other element, too, that speaks to why he's never left is, Pittsburgh is a destination city for a lot of players. It's just good to play in Pittsburgh. The fan base is passionate, yet it's not overwhelming. The media there, it's not the same as you would find in Toronto or Montreal or New York. So there's a lot to like. I guess it's a quality of life when you're a player in Pittsburgh. So I think that all of those sort of play a role why he's never really tried to push it and get to another place. And plus, I think he likes the Penguins. Have always played for 25 years. They've played the same style. I mean, it's a Malkin. Let's get in the offensive zone. Let's score. That's the way Malkin wants to play. So you go elsewhere. I mean, if you're Malkin, do you really want to play for a defensive-minded coach?
You're absolutely right, and you know in Pittsburgh that's just not going to happen, or it hasn't happened so far.
Right. I mean, even now where they're trying to play a style that will help them be successful in the postseason, they're still playing puck possession. They didn't convert to we're going to trap and slow the game down and try to win 2-1 games. They're still playing a puck possession game. So I think all the factors play a part.
The one thing that, and it hasn't affected to this point, but if you notice, I mean, Crosby, whoever the top winger on that team, now James Neal had played with Malkin for most of the time that he was there, but Crosby really gets his pick and choice of the wingers to play with. It just seems better that he plays with guys like Dupuis and Kunitz, but in general, I think Crosby has had the better wingers than Malkin, and that hasn't really affected Malkin's offensive totals, but I think it's a respect thing, and that's why I'm surprised that he hasn't forced the issue and wanted to go someplace else. But if he's comfortable with it, I mean, it's a great situation to have. I mean, he's going to get this, everybody's going to put their top checker against Sidney Crosby, and Malkin gets to benefit from playing against the second best defensive player on that team.
Plus, Malkin knows what it's like around the league. I mean, as a member of the Penguins, he plays a team worse than his 2 or 3 times a week, right? So he knows there are a lot of situations out there where he would be worse off, where the team wouldn't contend, where sure he'd play a premier role, play a larger role as the top center, but would it be more beneficial for him, for his pocketbook, for his record, for his playoff appearances, all those things? And so I would like to see it. As a hockey fan, I would like to see those two on different teams, see some of the talent spread around a little bit, some of those big centers, and see what he could do. But I totally make sense of the reason why he isn't asking to get out of that Pittsburgh situation.
Let's take that theme for just a second. Are we done with this topic?
Yeah, no, you continue.
Well, I thought a bit about this just recently. With regard to after I think I told you I was watching on television and how they're now giving athletic scholarships to gamers at Robert Morris University, and they have 18 scholarships, and they had
video gamers.
Yeah, video gamers, and they had a pep rally for them, and all the athletes showed up, and it was really stacked. I think, well, is it possible that the sports landscape won't look the same in 40 or 50 years? And, I mean, we've all heard, we've talked now, golf now is a little bit on the decline, that people aren't enjoying that. There was concern in baseball 6 or 8 years ago about the fact there were the inner city schools weren't playing baseball, and there was concern that was sort of losing some steam as well. I mean, could we, be heading in that direction where we have a generation of young people who don't get off the couch and they don't play the game, so they don't have the great passion. Now, saying all that, it made me think of, okay, what would sports do if they got to the point where they were losing a fan base, and what could they do? And I was trying to think outside the box, and one of the things that occurred to me is, wouldn't it be outrageously fun if in 20 years from now, when there was a struggle, if the NFL and the NHL said, you know what we're going to do just to stir it up and create more, we're going to redraft the whole league. So everybody's contracts would mean the same, but we're just going to, we're going to redraft the whole league. Nobody's on the team. We're going to start over. We're going to have a draft, and we'll just draft. You'll draft players until we run out. and wouldn't that be just outrageously fun?
It sounds like my Stratomatic league every few years, Kevin. I mean, that's.
Well, I mean, basically, it's fantasy, and fantasy's still strong. So
yeah, So cool. I mean, it would just I've never really been old enough to really completely understand or contemplate an expansion draft. Just like what we see when you have that. I mean, I guess I was technically when the Sharks and Lightning came in, should have remembered, but I don't really remember them. I don't really remember the expansion draft.
I'll explain the expansion draft to you. It would be like McDonald's franchises welcoming 3 new franchises to the city, but says, okay, for the first 4 or 5 years, you have to serve an inferior brand of hamburger than the rest of us. That's how it works.
You can't have Big Macs on your menu, and instead of special sauce, you have to use Thousand Island dressing. That's basically what it is.
Well,
It's like
we're going to help you out. We're going to give you your choice of the fourth liners and fifth and sixth defensemen, around the league.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and just to prove we're nice guys, we will give you an average goalie. You won't be bad, but we'll give you an average goalie.
There's enough goalies to give everybody an average goalie.
So Ron makes
everybody to an okay goalie.
Yeah, so Ron Tugnutt can make 73 saves with the Senators,
right. I would love. I mean, obviously this. It's funny. I didn't think you were going where you were going with that, Kevin, and that was the way you were talking about that. I was thinking you were going back to what we did on the Cranky Hockey Writer show, where I said that in the future gamers will have a play in this thing, and that in the future there will be the NHL will experiment with the fan base changing lines, picking basically by basically voting on who goes out next and putting together a compilation. The computer will figure out what the fan base thinks the line combination should be, and they'll go out there together.
Isn't this where analytics is taking us? Isn't analytics taking where in the late 70s and early 80s with Stratomatic rating players on their offense, on their defense, on their breakaway ability, all segmenting their game, or even EA Sports with players rating them, giving them certain ratings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what they're trying to do with real players. They're trying to establish a rating system to quantify their value and then slot them in. It's like it's sort of, it's almost sort of like the way, and I always use this comparison, the way Star Trek has influenced technology today. Our cell phone is basically the communicator.
Yeah. No, it is. And every time I go to a door that opens up automatically, I go, shh. Just for fun.
Well, you raise an interesting point there, Mike and Kevin, in that it would be interesting to see how this would work out. If there was a league-wide draft, all the players available, I would be most curious to see how general managers weigh players based on their age and how players, their value drops after they turn 30, right? Because I think we already see it when it comes to your cap space, when it comes to trade value. When a player's over 30, it definitely gives you a little reason for pause that you wouldn't have with a guy who's 22, 23 years old, right? I think a lot of people look at a guy like Evander Kane. We saw the Tyler Seguin deal. Those deals were made with the expectation that these guys are going to be in the league for another 15 years and are going to keep getting better, right? So I'd be very curious to see where a Datsuk ends up, where a Joe Thornton ends up, where some of these veteran guys, how far do they fall, right? Until a team says, well, geez, what's this guy doing? We've drafted 100 players and Datsuk hasn't been taken yet, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and contracts would play a role as well. What's your contract? I mean, a guy like Zdeno Chara would probably be a great example. I mean, if we were just playing one game, he gets taken, in the top 5?
Yeah.
But if we're redrafting the whole league and you're going to play with him, well, second round, where does he go? Because there's some nice young players with pretty desirable contracts out there that I think would go a lot higher because you're going to have them a lot longer. So I mean, it would be fascinating.
Kevin, you're the only person who can pull this off too, because you know the general managers well enough, and they trust you enough to actually take them at a blind, anonymous thing where you're going to say you're just talking to somebody at the teams. And do this with the GMs and say, what would you do? It's your pick now. Go ahead, you got it. Pick the first round. Pick the first couple rounds. Oh, man, I would do that already.
What we'll find out is this is a secret initiative on the part of MLS&E to be able to redraft their own team.
All right, so to finish the Penguins thing for a second, the Penguins also tweeted out this picture after the win.
Jeez.
And I don't quite understand what this picture means. I want to kind of... It is Fleury, for those of you just listening who have video. It says 300 wins, kind of written in like blood, like red rum type blood drawing.
This is the movie 300. The
oh, is that it? All right. Is that why he has a monkey face for a chest?
Yeah. That's probably Gerard Butler's torso and Marc-Andre Fleury's head superimposed. The interesting thing was he is the third quickest in NHL history to reach 300 victories. Jacques Plante was first And I was surprised. I heard this. Jacques Plante was first, and the second was Andy Moog, which I couldn't believe.
Wow. Talk about playing with a good team, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it came down
But he was a
to.
backup. He was a backup in Edmonton behind Fuhrer for
many years.
Years of his career. So.
Oh, weird.
Many years. Okay, so last night in the Flyers Islanders 0-0 thriller, they sorry, the shootout actually had some fantastic moments in it. Let me see. I'm gonna switch this.
Well, the Halak save on Giroux, which you're probably going to cue up.
Yeah, I got both of them here.
I couldn't believe. I mean, it wasn't exactly the most exciting game. I was flipping around watching a number of different games, Pittsburgh and Boston, that game,
right.
and Detroit and Ottawa. But I caught the shootout.
All right,
here we go.
Here we go. This is something. I mean, this is Hasek-esque here. That's the only way I could describe it. So this is Halak on Giroux. This is just like on race up here. So here we go. This is crazy. I mean, Giroux.
Yeah, Giroux has him beat. He has him beat. He has him off balance. He has him going the other way, and he reaches back with the left hand with the glove. It was a fantastic save.
Yeah, and you can see Halak going in two directions. Now, Halak is not a big goalie. You got to remember, he's not a very big goalie, and this is like a heck of a save. This is like a save that like a big goalie would make because they're just so big. But he's getting back there. He's really, and Giroux Giroux does screw this up because this is also, if you look at where he's got all kinds of room on the short side between the glove and the post. You can see on the side.
All he has to do is elevate the puck, and it's a goal. I mean, that's.
But a heck of a save, nonetheless. That was an amazing save, you know. And I mean, I'm a Halak guy. I've always been a Halak guy. I'm a big fan of his. And I know Ryan, you are. You had the Islanders high because of Halak.
I've always been a Halak guy. When I was back in college, actually in Salt Lake City, I was covering the Utah Grizzlies of the ECHL, and I remember they, the ECHL, a place for goaltending prospects to get in some games and get in some work. And I still remember, this was about 10 years ago, interviewing Halak when he was playing for the Long Beach Ice Dogs. And even back then, I remember him making an impression just with his intensity. You ever talk to a guy and you see the desire they have to be the best in the world? I was talking to him about the 2002 Olympics, and he was kind of talking about how he felt snubbed that he wasn't there, even at that time, at that age. Because he had the desire to be the best goaltender in the world, he said. And I'm like, at the time, I'm thinking, well, geez, you play in Long Beach for the Ice.
Right.
Like, you're in the Montreal Canadiens organization. Go easy there, buddy. But you see his career and the way it's played out. I am shocked that he's been traded as often as he has, that he hasn't really nailed down a #1 spot for a long period of time. Now it looks like he's finally getting that chance for the Islanders and making the most of it, and they are definitely reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Mark Champagne, was his goalie coach back then when you were talking to him with the Ice Dogs, and he always told me, he said, listen, this guy's special. He told me back then, he's like, this guy will be not only a great NHL goalie but one of the greats. And then of course when he went on that run with Montreal, which was very epic, that was incredible. Then he ran into the Flyers, and they, the Flyers beat him. And that series to me was the series that I think sort of defined him in the NHL for a lot of people and why he's been traded. Because the Flyers beat him by basically showing he was a small goalie. I mean, they ran around him, they put people in front of him all the time. And where before he had beaten the first place Penguins, he beat the second place. But neither of those teams went to the net like the Flyers did. The Flyers went to the net and took them out. And yeah, and then one of my favorite moments of the Olympics that I covered in Vancouver was Halak and the Slovaks beating the Russians. That was like their own little miracle on ice, They're out there, and Halak just went, it was Russians, right? Or is it the Czech team? It was Russians, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. All I know of that is the fact amazing. That we thought that this team was going to be a borderline playoff team, and then Garth Snow made those two moves to get Boychuk and Leddy. And that pairing, along with Tavares coming back completely healthy from the injury last year, they're getting scoring out of Opozo. Halak is playing well. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games. I mean, they're just playing. And I've been a critic of some of the signings that they made during the offseason. They're not getting a lot of production out of Grabowski and Kuhlman, but they're getting a lot of scoring out of the Brock Nelsons. They got a young kid, Anders Lee, who's scored a few goals. They have Ryan Strome, who was a 5th pick a few years ago, is finally starting to come around and score some points. I mean, they have a lot of players, but it was the key part, Kevin, was that those 2 veteran defensemen that they brought in, and I think it just solidified the back end, which has always been a problem for that team.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I just did a piece yesterday on who I thought the early favorite for GM of the year, and I actually, gave it to Benning in Vancouver, simply because I thought he had 4 moves that he made that really have paid off. He hired Desjardins as the coach. I thought he got enough to trade. Some would argue that he actually did better than the Ducks did. I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far. I think both teams got what they wanted in that trade. And then, he signed Miller and then Verbata. But, Gar Snow and a lot of fans, and they struggled. There was some pretty funny, hilarious comments about people going, talking about how they hate to say it. But, Gar Snow probably deserves credit just for the reasons that you said. And I will say this about Halak, interesting. Like, I talked to Kyle Okposo about him in September before he had actually seen him on the ice, and he was really excited about having Halak as his goalie, and it was all based on stats. Like, he had gone, he said, as soon as they made the trade, he went to the book, and he had seen the Islanders goalie since he had been there struggle with save percentage. And, you can't win in this league unless your goalie has a reasonable save percentage. It's just that
like 920 now. 920 seems to be.
You've got to be up there in the 915 to 920 range in order for your team to be successful. And Halak was, I think, as I recall, around 918. Yeah. And last year, playing for a pretty poor Capitals team after the trade, Okposo noted that he was over 920, playing for a poor team. And lo and behold, I looked yesterday, and there he was, right at 918. And that's a big lift for that Islanders team. And even the Grabowski signing, neither one of those guys, Kuhlman, are tearing it up, but they're providing enough scoring. Like, they don't need a lot of scoring. I thought they would be a top 10 scoring team, and they're a top 5 scoring team because they're getting enough secondary scoring. And we all know how talented Tavares is, and Brock Nelson started to do this last season. We just forgot. At the end of last season, he looked pretty good. I watched him in the World Championships and thought, wow, he's going to be really good. He was on the top U.S. line in the World Championships last season. So, this is a really interesting team. I think their defense isn't quite as strong as they need it to be, but it's much better, as Mike pointed out, than it's been in a long time. And those trades were, what a difference maker those 2 trades were.
Yeah, if you can add that kind of power. Go ahead, Mike.
And as we touched on yesterday, Kevin, with the way the salary cap situation is going to happen next year, a team like Buffalo or Florida, who's going to have a ton of cap room next year with teams that are going to have problems, they're going to be able to mimic what Snow did and be able to take on salary like Boychuk, like Leddy. The teams that are at the bottom are going to be able to really get better a lot quicker because they're going to have that flexibility. Now, the question is whether those GMs will be able to make the right moves to make their teams better, but they're going to have an opportunity to turn things around quickly and not have these long, drawn-out rebuilds, which I'm sure Ryan is with Edmonton.
Boy, we went to 148 with that Edmonton Oilers joke. I had 122. I think that's pretty good. That's the longest we've ever gone, Ryan.
Sorry.
Well, it makes sense, though, Mike, because you look at this past summer, right, and all these teams going out hiring analytics teams, putting all this money into all these guys who know the numbers and stuff. Just get a top-flight goaltender. Just do whatever it takes to get a top 10 goaltender in the league, and you improve your team's fortunes overnight without changing a single thing. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for me if any GM out there is not working the phones, doing everything he can right now to ensure that no one can question his goaltending.
It changes everything, and we've seen it. It doesn't just change the defense, and I've talked about it many times. It changes the offense. Like having a goalie changes having a great goalie changes your offense. It enables you to take chances. It enables you to play without fear. It keeps the attitude up. Whenever a great save is made, it's as if you scored a goal. It's like it's completely good. Like
look at the example. Cliff Fletcher came to Toronto after he won a Stanley Cup in Calgary, and one of the first moves that he made was he traded for Grant Fuhr.
Right.
Now they ended up trading Grant Fuhr, but because they had Felix Potvin coming through the system, and he was the one who led them to 2 conference finals. Pat Quinn comes to Toronto in 1998, and what's the first thing that he does? They get Curtis Joseph. They go to 2 conference finals in 4 years with Curtis Joseph. That is the pathway that you have to follow is getting a good or great goaltender to backstop your team. The problem is that in free agency this year, I think you had 2 pretty good goaltenders in Hiller and Ryan Miller that were out there. If you look at free agency next year, there's not a great goaltender out there, and I don't think there are a lot of teams that are going to be willing to trade a number 1 goalie for a cheap price. So that direction is not going to be easy for some teams.
Well, when I was a kid, I hated what if comic books. I hated that.
I love them.
I hated them. But I love the what ifs in sports. And let's play what if this summer.
Yeah.
Okay, they got Calgary. Calgary got Hiller, who they didn't even target starting out, but his availability made them think, we might be able to improve our team. Reasonable price, 1.5. What if Edmonton comes in and offered Hiller $6 million, and he's in Edmonton right now? It would have made a significant difference for this team. It really would have. I don't think there's any question about that.
No, or if they go after Halak. Halak would have been a great goalie on Edmonton because Halak,
Ryan Miller. I mean, even Michael Neuwirth. What would the Buffalo Sabres look like if Michael Neuwirth wasn't putting up a .920 save percentage this season? Like,
they'd be in single digits. That's what they'd be, Ryan, and they probably want to be.
Also, I want to move on a little bit. If you didn't see Tavares' goal last night, you got to see this too. The shootout goal was phenomenal. As well, and again, Mason, who really, Steve Mason is just getting screwed by the Flyers this year. He's played very well when he plays, and again last night, shut out and gets nothing for it. He just is not getting any support whatsoever right now, and I don't get it.
This is a repeat of October of last year. If you remember, Mason was unbelievable, and the Flyers couldn't score for him. The difference is that Giroux was out or not 100% last year, and this year there's no really major injuries right now. It's Giroux's there, Shen is there, Voracek is near the top of the league. They're just not putting efforts together to get them where they need to go, and I don't think Mason or even Ray Emery is really at fault.
Right. No, not at all. I agree. And Emery's been. It's weird with Emery, they score more goals, and again, this shouldn't make any sense because of what I just said about the offense being better with the better goalie there, because the Flyers are definitely more comfortable with Mason in there, but it's almost, in this case, it almost becomes the comfort level almost gets to the point where they're so comfortable they're not giving the effort on offense, and that's what it feels like right now. Also, we didn't even mention, Nielsen, who has been phenomenal in the Islanders, and really is one of the most underrated players in the league, and I don't think we underrate for much longer because people are talking about him all the time as the most underrated player. It usually is the beginnings of not being an underrated player, but he's been phenomenal. So let's end the show today with Ryan and I making a trade, all right? Because I'm going to represent the Philadelphia Flyers, you're going to represent the Edmonton Oilers. These teams need to make a deal. Everybody's talking, and Kevin's going to be the moderator as to whether or not this is possible. And Mike's gonna have something quippy to say at the end of it all. So prepare your one-liner, Mike. You just have one line.
This job. So.
All right. Okay. One line at the end, Mike. Just that sums up the entire thing that we're talking about. Just one quippy line. That's all you have, and that's gonna end the show. All right. So here we go. All right. So. Ryan, I am calling you up. I'm gonna represent Ron Hextall. So first of all, I'm gonna say, hey Craig, all those hits to the head without a helmet, what have they done to you? You can't, and even though I know you're not.
Easy. That's a low blow.
I know. All right. Okay. So all right. So let's. All right. So tell me this. So Craig, I really need some scoring. I need a winger. I know you guys need a center, and you need defenders. So I'm going to offer you up a pair of Braydens. Actually, one Braden and one Braydon. But yeah, Braden and Braydon. I'm going to offer up Braden Shen and Braydon Coburn. And I would like back Jordan Eberle or Neil Yakupov. What are you saying?
Nail Yakupov is all yours because he has 5 points this season, and he's playing on the third line tonight with Leon Draisaitl and Luke Gazdic. So we do not value Nail Yakupov at all. You're free to him. Go ahead. If you'd like Luke Gazdic as well, go ahead and take him along. He's just going to end up cut at some point this season. So.
All right. Well, you know that I'm not quick to make trades. Obviously, you know that I'm a really tough person to deal with. I mean, you saw the Hartnell for Umberger trade. So I would like to know. My question for you is this. Okay, so Yakupov, but so what's it take to get Eberle out of there? Because I can spell Eberle better.
Eberle's a high-ticket item. You know, he is our leading scorer. He's on pace for 60 points this season, Ron. So we can't.
But that's like saying, Mickey Mouse is the best character of Disney World. Okay, so go ahead and continue.
I'll tell you what. Give us Braden Coburn because we know we've been talking about a Coburn deal in Edmonton for about 5 years now. There are actually Oiler fans with Coburn jerseys. There are.
I understand. Okay, the Coburn. Really, that's funny.
That's right.
Coburn is from the great draft that yielded such short can't miss prospects as Dion Phaneuf and Bogosian. So these guys are perfect. So Coburn is.
Wow. So we like Coburn. We like Coburn for Eberle. We do not like Braden Shen. We've already had a player of his ilk in Edmonton. His name was Andrew Cogliano. We saw how that ended in Edmonton. So we would like Sean Couturier and Braden Coburn in exchange for Jordan Eberle.
Ooh, boy. Well, Sean Couturier is a lot taller than Braden Shen, so I'll have to think about that one.
And if you throw in a guarantee not to give me the Kent Nielsen treatment, there's a deal.
Right. And remember, that I know Barry Marlton. So before you make this deal with me, what that means. So, all right. So the trade options are on the table. Is I can trade you Braden Shen and Braden Coburn for Yakupov and whatever else I want, or or as the players that you think shouldn't be in the NHL, or you're going to give me Eberle for Braden Coburn and Sean Couturier. Kevin, either of these deals, you like them?
Well, I really like the Yakupov trade from Edmonton's perspective, and I think the other deal is interesting to talk about. Eberle's a proven player, and Couturier I think has more offensive potential there than people realize. So I mean that could be a fair trade, and they need a veteran defender who's defensive minded, who's not worried about offense. Yeah, I mean, I could see. I'm not sure that either of those trades would be transacted exactly like that, but I can see both of them being the basis of a trade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Hextall would use threatening comments about the part. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
And I guarantee McTavish would give up more than another team asked for because we know he's not the most shrewd negotiator. Nikita Nikitin is being paid $4.5 million this season, and who knows where that negotiation started out. His agent must have asked for $6 million in order to get it down to $4.5 million.
Let's just say this: if Nail Yakupov thought that he was under pressure in Edmonton, if they made this type of deal, he hasn't even tasted the type of pressure he would get in Philadelphia. He would be eaten in Philadelphia if they make this deal and he doesn't produce. So I would, in that instance, if I was Ron Hextall, I would rather be going for Eberle because I think Eberle is a more proven commodity.
All right, I appreciate your opinion, Mike. But we don't eat hockey players in Philadelphia, despite the rumors of the fans being rough around here. Not since the Eagles of the late '70s and Roman Gabriel have we eaten players. But okay, so yeah, all right, we'll think about it. So Mike, you have your quip. Ready? Go.
Not happening.
I think the best pick was the Mickey Mouse line. I got to say.
Yeah, I got Mickey on the mind. I was in Florida. That's all the time we have for today. So I'm in Florida still. I'm going to be going to Discovery Cove, and I'm going to be trying not to be eaten by a dolphin on Thursday. But I'm going to swim with dolphins, and I understand they're ravenous people eaters. But I flew on a plane down here, and I want to say something that should be illegal. First of all, Southwest Airlines is a little too quippy for their own good these days. All these jokes that Southwest throws out there are a little bit, you know, I don't know. I like Southwest, but I want to throw that out. And secondly, cats. We had 4 cats on our plane. Four cats. All right. My wife and daughter are deathly allergic to cats. So much to the point where if I was in a house with a cat, I throw my wife and daughter and I hose them off in the garage before they come in the house. They are literally they are so allergic that if their clothes has to be burned and taken away, like if they're near a cat. So they have to spend time with 4 cats on a plane, and it's like the whole time. And I'm just like, wait, you know, what am I just allowed to bring? I'm gonna bring a parakeet just for the hell of it on my next trip. Just, you know, just a bird. I don't know. It's just. Anyway, I'm throwing that out there.
You call it a service parakeet, though. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
This parakeet reads for me. This reads for me. This parakeet. This bird can read me.
I like it.
Service. Oh, I know. It was so obvious too. You know, people are like the service animal thing is getting crazy because there was a family in the Orlando airport, which is phenomenal. It's like a mall in of itself. So there's a guy with a service dog. You know, it's I want to call it a, I don't know, mixture of a Shih Tzu and a Labradoodle or something. It's just a bizarre looking dog, and this dog was completely out of control. It was like it was barking at everything, and this is like a service. Anyway, I'm just saying, people are lying about service dogs. Okay, that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back again tomorrow with one last show for the week, and remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.